Hi, everybody. I'm Caitlin, one of the youth librarians at Skokie Public Library, and I'm here tonight with Katie and Gudrun, two of my absolute favorite librarian superstars. We are really excited to talk to you about chapter books with pictures, a topic that I'm going to be honest was a little challenging to me because I do the bulk of my reading with my ears. I'm an audiobook person. I do love illustrated books though, and it was fun being pushed outside my comfort zone a little bit.
I totally agree, Caitlin. This was a fun challenge for me, and I'm excited to dig into this important topic with both of you. Before we get started, let's clarify what we're going to be talking about tonight. We all love picture books and board books and recognize the need for those transitional chapter books with lots of pictures for our emerging readers. But aside from graphic novels, I think a lot of people don't really consider illustrations for bigger kids, or they think they are unnecessary. So for this talk, we decided to focus on books for kids who are established readers, whether they like it or not.
Though there are lots of reasons we love books with pictures in them, as we were chatting about this topic, we came up with three big reasons why chapter books with pictures are beneficial for older kids. The first reason why we love these books is that they provide gateways to a love of reading for kids who, for any number of reasons, don't consider themselves readers.
Yes. Right off the top of my head, I think of those kids who tell us that they don't like books. Maybe they love stories, but they get intimidated or overwhelmed by what feels like a big wall of text. I think for some kids, the mechanics of learning to read takes up so much space in those lower elementary grades that the joy of reading and story get lost in the shuffle. Whenever a kid tells me that they don't love to read, I immediately think of books like Stickdog and the 13th Story Treehouse. Stickdog is by Tom Watson, and 13th Story Treehouse is written by Andy Griffiths and illustrated by Terry Denton. From the jump, you get the sense that perhaps unlike the very serious business of learning how to read, these books do not take themselves seriously. You think reading is not for you? Well, chapter 1 of Stickdog is entitled, I Can't Draw, Okay? Tom Watson is an enormously popular children's author who draws stick figures for a living. If he can do it, anyone can do it. Another thing these books often share is a pretty raucous sense of humor. I remember when my son was struggling with longer text and whether or not he really loved reading, I put the 13 Story Treehouse in his hands and it was an enormous hit. So here's a book about two kids who live in a tree house that is so over the top, it's absolutely absurd. It has a great sense of humor, it has tons of pictures, and thinking about all the different things that can go into that wild tree house really sparks the imagination and inspires creativity. You can see, if you look closely at this picture, all the different rooms and features that their treehouse has. And with each progressive book in the series, it gets even more wild. The books are funny and they are accessible, and the pictures work in different ways to really show kids that these books are for them.
That's great, Caitlin. I actually had a kid I was talking with about summer reading, and that was one of their favorite series this summer. So it's pretty cool. So my first book for you is called Fortunately the Milk by Neil Gaiman and illustrated by Scotty Young. A sense of humor really goes a long way toward making books welcoming, and this one fits right into that category. This is a super fun, hilarious tale of time travel that is all thanks to a routine trip to the corner store gone terribly wrong. It starts with a bowl of cereal and no milk in the house and turns into a father's wild journey of alien abduction, a fall to the sea that leads to a stint aboard a pirate ship, and you won't even believe what else. All while the father hangs on ever so tightly to the milk. It's told like a great bedtime story, and the illustrations add to the wacky, dreamlike quality of the story and provide details that help flesh it out. It reminds me of Roald Dahl's BFG or James and the Giant Peach. You couldn't have this story without the illustrations and vice versa. This book is a great buffer from easier chapter books to stories with more complicated plot lines. It makes for a great read aloud too.
I have World Travelers and the Taj Mahal Mystery by Raj Halder. And I think this is a perfect series for fans of the Magic Treehouse and the Greetings from Somewhere series. I love traveling to different countries, and reading stories that take place in faraway places is so much fun. There's also a little bit of mystery and a lot of magic in this series. Have you ever wondered about where words come from? Yes, you can find the meaning of a word in a dictionary, but why does a word have that specific meaning? Maybe your first language isn't English, and you have fun discovering similarities between your language and English. Sometimes you recognize part of the word and it's like, oh, that makes sense to me now. Books like this one, with lots of picture clues, are a great way to make English language learners more confident readers. Our main characters are Eddie and Molly Jean, MJ for short. They have been best friends forever. Eddie and MJ have weekly epic play dates with sleepovers. But one of those Saturdays, the two of them wonder where the word pajamas comes from. As it turns out, Eddie's great grandpa was a world famous etymologist. Now, etymologists study the origin of words and how words become part of a language. Eddie's mom sends them up to the attic to look for great grandpa Oscar's special book, a book the kids call the Awesome Enchanted Book, AEB for short, to look up the word pajamas. As it turns out, the word pajamas comes from India. Pa meaning leg and jama meaning shirt. So really, pajamas are leg shirts. As the two friends look this up, the AEB suddenly floats. There's smoke and poof, they're in India. And they know that right away because out of their window, they can see the Taj Mahal. What follows is a fun, fast-paced, mysterious adventure where knowing the origin of word helps find the clues and ultimately the treasure. In real life, entomology isn't quite this simple. After all, people get PhDs for studying this. But this is an exciting start to a series where the second book will take you to Mexico.
That looks super cool. I love the illustrations in this book, Gudrun, and this is a series that I hadn't heard of before you put it on the list, so I'm really excited about it. I also get really geeked out about where words come from. I'm really excited about this series. I have one more book that doesn't take itself too seriously. This is Jake the Fake Keeps It Real. It is written by comedians Craig Robinson and Adam Mansbach, and it's illustrated by Keith Knight, whom you might recognize from the comic strip The K Chronicles. Jake has a big imagination, but he's not the best at school. He's not the worst, but when he's accepted, sort of by accident, to the same prestigious performing arts school that his super talented, super genius sister goes to, he's pretty sure that he's going to get kicked out. Luckily, he has a big imagination and a great sense of humor, and the plan that he devises to keep himself in school will have you cracking up. There are plenty of laughs to be found within the text, but the pictures, usually doodles from Jake's imagination, are where the jokes are really found. I think this book works on a lot of different levels, but ultimately it is a lighthearted, laugh-filled story that's perfect for anyone who's ever doubted themselves or felt like a big fake.
That's awesome, Caitlin. My next book is called TBH, This is Awkward by Lisa Greenwald. In case you don't know, TBH means to be honest. A lot of times I have a hard time decoding these, so I thought that would be helpful.
Maybe they need a book like Gudrun's word book.
Yeah.
Right. This series is fun because it tells a story almost entirely through text messages, emojis, emails, and handwritten notes. This is a different take on illustrations, but I will argue that the visual qualities that draw kids into pictures translate very well to decoding text, emojis, and notes passed in class. The first book follows the 6th grade school year of 3 good friends, Priyanka, Gabrielle, and Cecil. Their perfect friendship is disrupted by the arrival of Victoria, a new girl desperate to fit in. Their days are full of homework, crushes, a co-ed party, Gabrielle's possible move, and the upcoming Valentine's Day dance. But after Victoria's mother emails the principal about social cruelty and exclusion, the dance is canceled. Parents download an app to monitor their children's text messages, The girls fight, and eventually everyone learns important lessons about kindness, friendship, and spending too much time on their phones. This series covers topics that kids experience every day, and they are presented in a way that's relatable and engaging. Great for reluctant readers or kids who want something light and easy to enjoy. I highly recommend the TBH series by Lisa Greenwald.
The second reason we love chapter books with pictures is that they offer multiple points of entry into the story. Research shows that not only are novels with graphic elements great tools for readers who are less confident or enthusiastic about their skills, but they are also really good for more advanced readers. In reading these books, kids are looking at both the narrative text and pictures to understand the story. Both of these elements are equally challenging and utilize important skills. Here we have some books in which the pictures are as important to the storytelling as the words are. First one I've got here is called Pie in the Sky, and it's written and illustrated by Remy Lai. This is not a brand new book, but I am so glad I discovered it by looking for excellent illustrated stories. I happen to love books that make me laugh and cry, and this one managed that in the first few pages. It's the story of two brothers, Jing Wen and Yang Hao. Jing Wen is 12, and Yang Hao is a couple of years younger. They immigrate to Australia from Asia with their mom. We don't really learn where they're from, but the author, I looked her up, immigrated to Australia from Singapore. It's Australia they moved to, but to Jing Wen, it feels like they've landed on another planet, or maybe even more likely, the Australian kids think that the two brothers are Martians. The fact that Yang Hao, the younger one, picks up English so much faster than Jing Wen does not make life for Jing Wen less stressful at all. Jing Wen is already repeating 5th grade that he had already finished at home. Back home, it was their dad's dream to open up a cake shop called Pie in the Sky. That was the plan for when the family settles in Australia. Dad passed away in a car accident back home, and now it's just the three of them, Jing Wen and Yang Hao and their mom. The two boys find the family cookbook, and the two boys decide to bake all the pies together, just the two of them. These are very special creations that they had planned with their dad. And they do this even though mom had made it all too clear that turning on the oven while she's at work is definitely not allowed. On top of everything else, now there's also the very real possibility that Jing Wen will be moved down to 4th grade. Now, what could be more humiliating than being in the same grade as your younger brother? Will things work out for Jing Wen?
My next book is called The Invention of Hugo Cabret, written and illustrated by the amazing Brian Selznick. In my opinion, you can't have a book chat about chapter books with pictures without mentioning Brian Selznick. This was one of the first chapter books I read as a professional children's librarian that changed my understanding of what writing for children could look like. It really was the first of its kind in this particular niche genre of children's lit, as it relies heavily on the illustrations to tell the story. They are not an addendum to the story, they are the story as much as the words. The illustrations give the details of the setting, the plot, and the characters that would often fill up paragraph upon paragraph of words with equal depth and precision, but arguably way more emotion. Set in the year 1931, orphan, clockkeeper, and thief, Hugo Cabret lives in the walls of a busy Paris train station where mystery, secrets, and hidden messages put him at risk to lose everything he has left after the death of his father. I know this description is short and sweet, but you really just have to experience this one for yourself. The cinematic quality of the illustrations is truly breathtaking. It's a reading experience to remember and a great one to read together too.
I love Brian Selznick. I love all his books. I feel like all of them just kind of sucker punch you about halfway through. It's like you don't even know what hit you, and he does it all. It's all in black and white. I just think it's so interesting. I love it. I also have a book where the pictures work as hard as the words to push the story along. So I've got Thornhill. This is written by Pam Smy, It is an absolute creep fest. It will have you on the edge of your seat from the very beginning. So, like Hugo, this is told from multiple perspectives, and the pictures are very much a part of the narrative. Unlike Hugo, whose pictures are full of wonder and discovery, Thornhill's artwork is moody and it's dark and it tells a story of its own, allowing us readers to visually immerse ourselves in this twisty story. So here we've got Ella. You can see her in this picture. She has just moved into a new house and she's on her own a lot. She is lonely until she catches a glimpse through her window of what looks like a girl in the abandoned, dilapidated house next door. This book is part mystery, it is part ghost story, it is all the creepy dolls, and you will not be able to put it down. It is gloomy, it is an absolute creepy ghost masterpiece. I highly recommend it.
Sounds wonderful, but I'm going to move us away from the gloom and drop us into Ben Yokoyama and the Cookie of Doom, written by Matthew Swanson and illustrated by Robbie Bear. This is the first book in the Cookie Chronicles series, and how can you resist a series with that title? The story starts with Ben eating his favorite food, noodles. He is what some call the noodle man. Ben is at a Chinese restaurant for the very first time and devours his delicious lo mein noodles. Now, after the pasta meal, another first for Ben, a fortune cookie. In his cookie, which, by the way, reminds Ben of another noodle type he adores, ravioli, he finds a strip of paper that reads, "Live each day as if it were your last." Good advice, right? Well, Ben takes this in a very literal way and actually lives like he would his very last day on this planet. First up, Ben sets his alarm for 1 minute after midnight, because if it is in fact your very last day, you want to make sure to be awake every minute of it, right? Not to miss a thing. After reading his fortune for the 14th time, Ben really thinks about how to do this, how to actually fit everything in this last day. He decides to make a list. First item on his list, eat a piece of cake. Good idea. Ben knows just where to find it, in the freezer, behind the pork chops and the peas. The fact that this frozen piece of cake has a note taped to it that says, in very big letters, "Do not eat this cake," with "not" underlined twice. That shouldn't matter, right? If it's really your last day, Dad wouldn't mind. And the cake, despite its frozen state, was delicious. Will Ben get in trouble for eating the cake? What's next on this list? Read Ben Yokoyama and the Cookie of Doom, and make sure to check out the other books in the series too.
So I have another book where the pictures and the text work together. This is Max and the Midknights. It's written and illustrated by Lincoln Pierce. Pierce is perhaps most famous for his Big Nate comics. My son and my father-in-law both love Big Nate, so it's intergenerational. And this graphic novel hybrid does not disappoint. This is one of those books that my son read unbeknownst to me, and he came running out with it in his hand. He's like, Mom, you got to read this one. And it's pretty great. So blocks of text move the narrative quickly, while panel drawings tell jokes. So it really is like a true graphic novel hybrid. So there's jokes, there's asides, and the graphic novel elements really let the reader see what the characters are thinking. It's a little bit like breaking the fourth wall at times. It can seem like the characters in the books are talking directly to the reader. It's a lot of fun. So the story is solid, the characters are relatable, and the pictures are inviting. This book is a guaranteed kid pleaser. I put it in a lot of kids' hands.
As is this next one that I have. It's called Home Sweet Motel, and it's written by Chris Grabenstein and illustrated by Ellen Brooke. Can you imagine actually living in a rundown motel?
Gudrun, did you notice this? Look, it's recommended by Lincoln Pierce. Did you?
Oh, is it? So it's got to
right
be
there on the cover.
I highly recommend it. It was not on the shelf, so a lot of people are reading this one, and it was written by the same author that brought us Escape from Mr. Lemoncello's Library and many other great stories. For PT, living in his grandpa's motel is as fun as it sounds. A pool, free ice cream, snacks, what could be better? Unfortunately, running a motel depends on traveler actually paying to stay there. and there aren't enough to keep this one above water financially. Disney is close by, and that's where everyone wants to spend their vacations. But here comes hope. Gloria checks into the hotel with her dad, and she's just the partner PT needs. While he's super creative, coming up with big, amazing ideas to keep the Wonderland Motel running, Gloria is more of a business person with a cool, math-savvy head. The two of them have some pretty impressive ideas. Karaoke by the pool, anyone? Can life at Wonderland get any more complicated? Well, yes, it can, because two criminals just released from jail check into the motel to recover their jewelry they hid there years earlier. Could this actually be the key to saving Wonderland? Can PT and Gloria find the valuable stash before the thieves? I love how this book doesn't really fit one genre. It's really, really funny, but it's also a mystery. The cartoon-like mysteries add to the fun and make this a super fast read.
Oh, that sounds so good. And finally, we love books where the pictures and add depth to the text. They depict something that's described to really allow you to stop and look. This gives the reader the opportunity to take a minute and process what they've just read to get to know the characters and scenery a little bit better. My next book does just that. This is The Wild Robot by Peter Brown. When Peter Brown set out to write a robot nature story based off of sketches he made while developing his picture book called The Curious Garden, his first question was, what would an intelligent robot do in the wilderness? Enter ROSM Unit 7134, or ROS for short. The story begins a few hundred years in the future on a remote northerly island surrounded by water and very different than the world we know, thanks to centuries of climate change. Roz the robot wakes up for the very first time to find that she's alone on a remote wild island. Roz doesn't know how she got there or where she came from. She only knows that she wants to stay alive. The way that Roz learns to navigate the island and communicate with and eventually befriend its other creature inhabitants with kindness and cunning skill helps her to lead a peaceful existence. That is, until her mysterious past catches up with her. According to the author, the 65 moody but simple illustrations are meant to set the tone for the book, but don't tell the whole story. This is exactly what you want when reading an illustrated chapter book, most of the time. Enough detail to add context and clarity, but not too much to limit your own imagination. So to answer the author's question, what would an intelligent robot do in the wilderness? Well, of course, she would make it her home.
I love The Wild Robot. I think it's one of my favorite books in the whole world for kids or for grown-ups. I think it's so beautiful. I have Roz on my lanyard.
Oh my gosh, I've never noticed that.
I love it so much.
She's very endearing.
Right? I mean, it's beautiful, and I think it says so much about the world, and I don't know, it's such a special book. I have another book that's like that, another really special one. I know that this is an immensely beloved and very famous book that does not need my endorsement. I've got Charlotte's Web. It is written by E.B. White and it has pictures by Garth Williams. Many people know the story of love and friendship and kindness and loyalty in so many ways. I think it pairs beautifully with The Wild Robot. I picked this classic not just because it is beautiful and sensitive and touching, but because it was important to me as a kid, in no small part because of Garth Williams' exquisite artwork. I lost myself in this book. I was deeply invested in Wilbur and Charlotte's friendship. I was part of it. I've read this book so many times, and when I finish it, I go back through and I spend time with the pictures like this one. There's so much to see here. You really get a sense of what it must be like to grow up on the farm, from a little runty pig to like the big, some swell pig. I feel like I know Fern Arable. I know her kind eyes and her auburn hair. I relived Wilbur's joyous flight. There it is. As well as his heartbreak, which I will not spoil. I studied these pictures as I sat with my feelings, and I appreciated all of them, the feelings and the pictures. In fact, Garth Williams illustrated so many of the books that were important to my childhood. I am grateful for all of them.
Yes, that's a hard one to follow. I have Mr. Penguin and the Lost Treasure written and illustrated by Alex T. Smith. This is an adventure story that is super funny and not scary at all, perfect for kids who don't like their books too spooky. Mr. Penguin is a professional adventurer in desperate need of an adventuring job. We can tell by the loud rumbling of that tummy that you might hear now how badly he needs a job. If he doesn't make some money soon, Mr. Penguin will have to pack up his adventurer's office and take a boat back to the frozen south. Mr. Penguin can't even stand to think about his stomach churning on that boat ride. Just in the nick of time, the phone rings. It's Miss Boudica Bones from the Museum of Extraordinary Objects. The museum has come upon some really hard times and it's closed until further notice. This is because it's literally falling apart. Walls are crumbling, ceilings are breaking. A toilet fell through the floor, landing on a very valuable stuffed walrus. The only way this museum can be saved is if an ancient secret treasure can be found. Miss Bones and her little brother Montague have looked everywhere, but haven't been able to locate it. Our adventurer and his spider assistant Colin are on it. Can this team save the museum? I don't want to give away too much, but can you imagine there's a real jungle under the museum? I love the off-the-wall humor as well as the illustrations. It's the first in a series of so far 4 books.
Those are some of the best character names that I've heard in a book in a while, I have to say that. So my last book today is called Strongheart, Wonder Dog of the Silver Screen by Candice Fleming and illustrated by Eric Rohmann. Shout out to all the animal lovers out there. This one is for you. Strongheart is based on a true story of a police dog in Berlin named Etzel that becomes a Hollywood star. Movie director Larry Trimble is in search of a new star for his 1921 movie, The Silent Call, a dog to be exact, and he is willing to travel around the world to find just the one. Well, he finds Etzel. He knows he's the one and gives him a new, more glamorous name, Strongheart. But as Strongheart becomes a Hollywood sensation, he is accused of a heinous crime. Can Strongheart, once a fierce police dog, be able to clear his name? The illustrations that accompany the story are soft, beautiful, and full of emotion. Strongheart's expressions and movements are felt through the pages. The section at the back of the book helps to fill in more of the true story and provides photographs of the real star. I love when books combine the fiction and nonfiction elements seamlessly like this. Strongheart is a heartwarming piece of historical fiction that is perfect to curl up with.
That's really lovely. I like how you said that the pictures are soft, because they are. As soon as you said that
yes,
it really resonated with me. Like I kind of wanted to pet them.
Yeah.
A little weird. And with that, I think we're at the end of our list. It is a really good one. And we would love to hear from you. Come visit us at the library or leave a comment telling us about the chapter books with pictures that you love. Finally, if you can't find what you need or you don't know what you need, we are here for you. In case you can't tell, Katie, Gudrun, and I, along with the rest of the Youth Services team, love talking about books. Come see us in person or fill out a book match request and we'll put together a personalized list and email it to you. We offer a book match for grown-ups, teens, and kids aged kindergarten and up. You can find a link in our chat or on our website at skokielibrary.info. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. Come and see us at the library, tell us your favorite chapter books, or just join us here next month for more exciting book conversation. Bye!
Bye, thank you.
bye.